Have you ever arrived at your sanctuary only to find it stolen from under your feet? That's what happened to me the morning I pulled into the familiar drive of our family beach house, only to see his car parked in the lot and her silhouette framed against the sliding glass door. That moment shattered everything I thought I knew about us, and it kicked off a plan so audacious it felt like the only way to wrest back my peace. It was late June when I first noticed the strain. The beach house had been ours for 5 years. A weathered, cedar-clad cottage perched on sand dunes, overlooking a half-moon bay that glowed silver under the moon. My partner David and I spent every summer weekend there. I'd write in the screened porch as gulls honked overhead. He'd pore over fishing maps while the kettle steamed on the stove. It was our escape from the city's grind, our ritual of renewal. So, when June rolled around that year, I was buoyant with anticipation, our first uninterrupted weekend since spring's onslaught. I left the office on Friday midday, tossed my laptop into the back seat, and drove east on Route 27, windows down, the warmth of late afternoon sunlight on my skin. As I turned off the main road and onto the narrow lane leading to the dunes, I saw a dark sedan parked by the mailbox, unusual, since ours was the only car allowed this deep without permission. My heart fluttered, but I told myself it was probably a neighbor or a contractor checking on the storm shutters before the season kicked into full gear. I slipped the key into the door and stepped inside. The air smelled of salt and sunscreen, a comforting bouquet I'd missed all week. I flicked on the overhead light. No one. The kitchen was perfectly arranged, fruit bowl on the counter, coffee maker poised to go, no sign of footprints in the sand track rug. I let out a relieved laugh. He hadn't arrived early. I carried my bag up to the loft bedroom and dropped it on the bed, then padded downstairs. That's when I heard laughter, soft, breathy, unmistakably his. I followed it around the corner to the living room. Through the glass wall that faced the beach, I saw them, David, standing in his swim trunks, hands on his hips as she curled her arms around his waist, her head tilted so his lips brushed her hair. She laughed again, a low trill of joy that turned my blood to ice. I stood there, stunned, until the door clicked behind me. They spun around, the laughter died. "Emma," his voice cracked. Her eyes widened, lilac-framed spectacles, pink lips parted. She was Carla, my coworker from the art direction team. A woman I'd shared lunches with, trusted to pick fonts on pitches I led. Now she stood inches from me, eyes wild, mascara smudged from salt or betrayal. I wasn't sure which. He faltered. Emma, I held up my hand. Don't. I turned and went back outside, letting the door slam behind me. My cheeks burned. My throat felt raw. I leaned against the glass, staring at the water. There they were, her fingers in his hair, his arms around her waist, their reflection dancing in the living room glass. I swallowed, hard. I could feel the dunes shifting underfoot, as though the earth itself wanted to swallow me whole. In that moment, I resolved not to beg, not to accuse, not to scream. I needed a plan that didn't involve pleading or tears. I would reclaim what was mine, but on my terms. I spent the rest of that afternoon driving along the shoreline highway, adrenaline hammering in my veins until I reached the old bait shop where I'd first met the realtor, Glenn Howard. Never mind that I hadn't planned to sell, it felt like the only sensible next step. Glenn was behind the counter tying off fishing line. He looked up, eyebrows lifting at the sight of me. "Emma Carter, haven't seen you since you refinished that porch last summer." He straightened. "What can I do for you?" I slid into the stool beside him. "I need to sell the beach house." His face flickered. "Already? Didn't you say it was your sanctuary?" I shrugged, too carefully casual. "Things change. I'm moving on." I handed him a printed sheet with the address and my contact info. No hesitations, no apologies. Glenn studied it, then looked me in the eye. "I'll get you a market analysis by Monday, but if you're serious, there's been a surge in interest along this strip. Investors, vacationers, tech execs buying properties unseen. He smiled, but I didn't. I want top dollar, I said. He nodded. As you should. That night, I met my best friend, Priya, at our favorite coastal diner, burgers, onion rings, and neon pink milkshakes for bedside comfort. Priya sipped her shake, brow furrowed. Emma, you look like you swallowed a thundercloud. I exhaled. I'm selling the beach house. She nearly choked on her straw. You're selling? What about the plans for next weekend? She waved a hand at the sand beyond the windows. That was supposed to be our annual Art on the Dunes retreat. I pinched the bridge of my nose. I don't care about art on the dunes anymore. He brought Carla here, Priya. My sanctuary was their playground. She grasped my hand. I'm so sorry. You want to ban them from the property? I nodded. I want to sell it. Then I want to buy. I lowered my voice to a conspiratorial whisper. Everything between Surf's Edge and Driftwood Cove. Every single property, every lot, every shack. Then I'll erect signs, hire security, and ban them from the entire strip. She stared. Then she grinned. That is legendary. I laughed, a raw sound. It better be, because I want control back, even if it means controlling 2 miles of beachfront. The next morning, I called my financial advisor, Marcus Levin. He'd handled my condo refinance and my startup seed round. He answered on the 5th ring, voice groggy. Morning, boss. What's up? I'm selling the beach house, I said flatly, and I want to buy the adjacent properties. He cleared his throat. You're joking. I rattled off numbers, my savings, home equity loan, a margin call for investors, a commercial loan for the remainder. Total needed, about $4 million. He laughed, once sharply. Then he said, It's crazy, but I can arrange financing if you have the appetite. My heart thumped. I do. Over the next 2 weeks, I assembled a dream team. Glenn to list and negotiate sales, Priya to handle design and staging, Marcus Levin to secure the financing, and my lawyer, Ava Thompson, to draw up purchase agreements. I interviewed dozens of owners, some selling because they'd inherited summer rentals they never used, others because they were tired of property taxes rising. Each time, I made them an offer they couldn't refuse. Full price, plus I'll cover closing costs. And you never have to worry about Airbnb damage again. Just sign over the deed. One by one, I acquired 7 properties, cottages and trailers, a tiny cafe shack, and a kayak rental stand. I found myself holding keys to Pinewood cabins and little A-frames that had once belonged to Gilded Age millionaires. I cleaned up liens, paid off mortgages, and slid deeds to Ava's desk like poker cards in a winning hand. By the end of the month, I owned the entire strip, from the old Driftwood Cafe sign at the north end to the Surf's Edge windmill by the dune grasses to the shaded picnic grove just south of my grandfather's plot. Ava handed me keys to the last property in her office, the Gull's Rest, a 3-bedroom cottage with aqua shutters. Congratulations, she said. You're now the sole owner of Pine Ridge Beach Estates. I sank into her high-backed chair. And their entry is banned. Ava slid across a sheet of paper, legal easement declarations, security zone signage, and a no trespassing covenant. Signed, sealed, and enforceable, violators will be prosecuted to the fullest extent. I exhaled, a long release of tension. Perfect. That weekend, I drove along the strip in my old Subaru, stopping at each property to change locks, post freshly printed, private property, no trespassing signs, and install solar-powered floodlights. At Surf's Edge, the ice cream cart sat abandoned. I turned it upright, then chained it to the porch railing. At the cafe shack, I unplugged the soda fountain and padlocked the door. At Driftwood, I removed the conch shell wind chime and replaced it with a new brass bell, a sharp, clear note whenever someone opened the door. I finished at sunset, standing on the dune overlooking the bay. The wind rippled over the surf, and the strip lay silent, my silent victory. No one dared to trespass now. The rules were clear, the signage uncompromising. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. A text from Marcus, once my partner, now a stranger, blinked at me. "Hey, I'm sorry, can we talk?" Beneath it, a message from Carla. "Emma, please respond." I stared at the screen, thumb hovering over delete. Instead, I opened my Photos app, found a picture of the beach house from last summer, Marcus and me holding hands at sunrise, and drew my thumb across it, swiping it to the trash. Then I drafted a group email to the new Pine Ridge Beach Estates Homeowner Association. Subject: Welcome to Pine Ridge Beach Estates. Dear neighbors, I hope you are as excited as I am to see our beautiful coastline flourish once again. As the new sole owner of our properties, I look forward to restoring tranquility and ensuring our strip remains private, peaceful, and free of unauthorized guests. Please find attached the governing covenants and trespasser policies. Let's work together to keep Pine Ridge a sanctuary we can all be proud of. Warm regards, Emma Carter. President, Pine Ridge Beach Estates, HOA. I hit send and watched the read receipts ping in. Already, community chatter was starting on our new HOA WhatsApp group. Greetings, suggestions for shoreline restoration, a proposal to add security cameras at the access road. I felt a surge of satisfaction. I had turned betrayal into empowerment, heartbreak into stewardship. As part one of my story draws to a close, I stand on the dune at twilight, with my hands on my hips, eyes scanning the empty cottages, the restless waves whispering their approval. Their love nest had been my beach house, but now I owned the entire coastline. Their banishment was official, and the strip was mine to protect. In part 2, I'll show you how I transform Pine Ridge Beach Estates into an exclusive haven for friends and family, host the inaugural sunset soiree under the stars, and watch as Marcus and Carla, if they dare to trespass, learn that boundaries, once firmly drawn, are meant to be enforced. Because sometimes the best way to reclaim what's yours is to own everything they could ever dream of. I woke on the first Saturday, after closing to the gentle creak of dunes shifting in the pre-dawn breeze. The sun had barely peaked above the Atlantic, painting the sky in ribbons of lavender and gold. I zipped into my windbreaker and stepped onto the deck of the southernmost cottage, formerly Driftwood Cafe, now repurposed as the Sunrise Pavilion, the gathering spot for Pine Ridge Beach Estates members. The air tasted of salt and cedar smoke. The world felt hushed and full of possibility. Below, I could see the new private trail I'd carved through the dunes, lined with solar pathway lights and low cedar benches. On the horizon, gulls wheeled above the breakers. I sipped my coffee, letting waves of relief seep into my bones. 2 weeks had passed since I'd completed the acquisitions and posted no trespassing signs on each property. Not a single unauthorized visitor had attempted to cross the strip. My ban was enforced, the silence absolute. I pulled out my phone. A text from Priya. First event tonight, sunset soiree, tables set, lights strung, need you at 5. I smiled, heart fluttering. The sunset soiree had been my signature idea. A welcome back party for our founding members and their families, held annually on the longest day of summer to celebrate community and new beginnings. By 4:30 p.m., I was on the boardwalk linking what used to be the Gulls Rest Cottage and the Cafe Shack. Between them now stood a long banquet table draped in linen, with driftwood centerpieces threaded with fairy lights and wildflowers. An overhead canopy of vintage nautical lanterns glowed faintly, waiting to crown the twilight. Under a separate tent, a local band tuned up. Classical acoustic guitar, soft jazz saxophone, the perfect soundtrack for dusk. Members began arriving at 5 Hancock sharp. Families from the city who'd discovered our strip, drawn by the promise of exclusivity and pristine shoreline. A retired sailor, with a handmade compass, he presented me as a gift. 2 artists from Brooklyn, who planned to hold plein air sessions by the dunes. Each guest bore the official Pine Ridge Beach Estates membership lanyard, small leather tags embossed with an oyster shell, and the words, "Exclusive since 2025. David and Carla, he in casual khaki shorts, she in a sundress that did no justice to the shock their letters of apology had once carried, approached at the back of the line, hesitating at the members-only sign. Their faces were pinched with guilt. I watched them from across the boardwalk, an outsider to their uncertainty. The lake behind them gleamed under clouds of pink. The sea breeze picked up as I greeted the first families with glasses of cucumber mint lemonade. I moved along the line, exchanging hellos and handshakes, chatting about recent storms, the bay's fishing season, even the weather forecast for surf reports. When I reached the duo, my breath caught in my throat, but my voice remained calm. "Emma," David said, gloves of regret in his tone. He offered me a mason jar of lemonade. I took it. Carla stood silent, staring at the sand. I smiled, warm but unyielding. "Welcome to the soiree," he stammered. We wanted to thank you for our lifetime passes." I tilted my head. "I'm glad you're here as members. Please join the line." I stepped aside. They nodded, slipping forward with their pitchers. Inside, the party blossomed. Children chased fireflies near the dunes. A violinist wandered among the guests, serenading them as they sipped local rosé and nibbled on oyster shell hors d'oeuvres. I slipped behind the table to refill platters of shrimp ceviche and grilled peaches with honey ricotta. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus Levy, our financial partner. "Numbers look great. Revenue projections met. Proud of you." I replied with a thumbs-up emoticon.